Imagine you throw a lavish surprise party for a close friend. You spend weeks on the details, but when your birthday rolls around months later, they do nothing. No party, no gift, maybe just a text. You feel deeply offended. You likely view yourself as the injured party, the selfless friend who wasn't appreciated. But that frustration reveals a hidden motive. Your anger is a signal that your kindness wasn't a gift, it was an investment you expected to pay off. This feeling of being owed changes the nature of the friendship. It suggests that, without realizing it, you have turned your personal relationship into a hidden competition for status and recognition. This psychological trap was a central focus for Alfred Adler. He argued that the problems we face in life are almost always rooted in our relationships, specifically in the goals we set when interacting with others. Adler observed that most people seek one specific goal: external approval. We want to be seen as good by our parents, our peers, or society. We often confuse this constant search for validation with a search for genuine connection. When approval is your goal, you subconsciously start tracking every favor and every sacrifice. You begin keeping a mental ledger of who has done what for whom, turning social life into a contest of who is the better person. This behavior creates an invisible burden for the other person. By acting selfless to secure approval, you are using kindness as a tool to control how others see you. It places a debt on your friends that they never agreed to carry, which is why these relationships so often end in resentment. External approval is a dangerous metric because it is almost always conditional. People don't like you just for existing. They like you for being the funniest person in the group, the most successful in your career, or the most generous. These standards are moving targets. What society considers impressive or good changes constantly, and no one can stay at the top of every category forever. Because approval is often based on comparison, someone else's success feels like your failure. If a friend becomes more generous or more successful than you, they raise the bar, making your previous efforts look smaller by comparison. Tying your self-worth to these shifting conditions creates a hostile environment. You can never truly rest or feel secure because there is always a new standard to meet and a new person to outperform. This is the logic of a zero-sum game. When you treat approval as a finite resource, life becomes a scale where one person rising pushes someone else down. This structure warps your perspective. A friend's promotion becomes a personal threat because in a zero-sum system, their gain makes you appear worse by comparison. You might find yourself secretly hoping your friends stumble or feeling a sense of relief when they fail. It's a toxic cycle where you can only feel up if someone else is down. This explains the resentment in the birthday party example. You treated your kindness as a deposit in a transactional ledger. When your friend didn't pay you back with a party of their own, you felt the debt went unpaid, leading to immediate offense. Relationships governed by this ledger eventually collapse. When every act of service is actually a demand for future validation, healthy, supportive intimacy becomes impossible to maintain. Adler's solution is to change the objective entirely. Instead of working to be liked, you work to be useful. He suggests replacing the pursuit of approval with the goal of contribution. In this context, contribution means finding fulfillment in the act of being helpful to others. The satisfaction comes from the internal knowledge that you have added value to someone else's life. For this to work, you have to provide that help without any expectation of a return. You contribute because it brings you meaning, regardless of whether the other person shows gratitude or even notices what you've done. When your sense of worth is self-generated through contribution, you stop viewing others as rivals. Since your value isn't coming from their praise, their success no longer threatens your standing. This leads to the realization that you have value just by being present. You don't need to score points or achieve extraordinary things to justify your existence in a community. You become capable of genuinely celebrating a friend's achievements. Because you aren't competing for a limited pool of approval, their happiness can exist alongside your own without diminishing it. Letting go of the need for approval and finding the courage to be disliked ends the zero-sum struggle. It allows you to build relationships based on mutual support rather than an unspoken competition for validation.